What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lineman Life live stream. Do me a favor, if you haven't been in here before, if you're new to this, hit that like button. Subscribe to the Observant Lineman Uche Nwaneri. That is I. Today, boy oh boy, we got plenty to talk about today. The Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Clippers blew it yesterday. They blew it. These guys have, and you know what? I'll give them a little bit of credit here. I'll give them a little bit of leeway. The Clippers have started every series of this entire playoffs down 2-0. Down 2-0. Now, you can look at that and you can say, this is nothing for them. They can bounce back from this. It's not, a big deal. Which, at this point, because they've been able to come back from being down 2-0 multiple times, I would say, okay, fine. Fine. I can accept that argument and I can say, you know what? That's a fair point. They have come back from 2-0 from teams that are, that had a talented, somewhat overachieving attitude at the time. They were down 2-0 to my Mavericks, but that was mainly because they couldn't stop Luka. Luka was the primary threat that that just kept cutting through them. And then I believe they played the Jazz, down 2-0, pulled it out. If I'm correct in saying that, I think that, they played the Jazz. Pretty sure. But these guys have been through this. They've been through this. This is they ain't new to this. They not new to this. They've been down 2-0. That's the point. That's the argument on one side. I can hear that and I can say, okay, cool. That's a straightforward argument that I can give some legitimacy to. But how many times are you going to play with fire? I think that's the other side of the argument. You can't keep doing this because eventually you're going to play against a team that has the ability to close you out, or at least they're able to, to meet the challenge of closing you out. And the crazy part about this is you don't have the actual leader of the squad available to you if you're the Clippers. You don't have Kawhi Leonard. They're not saying it, but it's pretty clear that cat tore his ACL. He's done. He's not coming back. They ain't saying that officially. I've not heard that. I don't know. Maybe somebody has heard that or heard some official announcement on what his situation is. But as far as I know, and as far as I can tell, because they're not saying anything officially, that cat tore his ACL. He done. He might see at the beginning of the next season. Maybe. But now they're in a different situation than they were in those first two rounds of the playoffs. Now, they're playing against a Suns team that, real talk, it don't look like it on paper. Well, maybe it does. But at first glance, for me, it didn't look like this was the kind of team that would just be running through cats. But they did. I think they beat, or did they beat the number one seed yet? Somebody beat the number one. I don't fucking know. I have to dig it up and look. I didn't keep up with the playoffs like that. I kept up with my Mavericks. And as we all know, the deeper the playoffs goes, the smaller amount of teams that are in it, the more people pay attention and they know what's going on. So that's kind of me. I didn't start watching every game until we got to the conference finals. I watched my Mavericks, paid attention to highlights of other things. Don't remember all the teams. Haven't kept up with basketball all that well this season or the last season. Or the last season, or the last season. So, forgive me if I'm not on top of every detail as far as the seeding. Yeah, so the Jazz were the number one seed. So they've already gone through a number one seed. So, from a momentum standpoint, these Suns are on cloud nine. They are flying right now. They can beat anybody, and they can beat them in any fashion. It can be a blowout. It can be a nail biter. They can do that. They have the momentum to come out of those games more often than not the winner. And it'd be one thing if Kawhi Leonard was there. Maybe, it's a different story. Kawhi Leonard's not there. And Chris Paul is coming back, which is a nightmare if you're the LA Clippers, because now you have a player coming back to the team that adds a level of stability, adds an immense level of experience. And, with the rate at which these young cats have become battle hardened for the Suns, like Devin Booker, these guys have fought through adversity without him being in the lineup, and they've come out winners. So they believe they can beat anybody. And they can. They can. I think that's kind of similar to what I look at when I see the Hawks on the other side in the Eastern Conference. You got a team that maybe looking at them at first glance, you're not thinking that this is going to be a squad that's just going to be able to pull games out. But the Hawks have become battle hardened. They've become resilient. They went up against the I would say unanimous pick. I'm sorry. Consensus, unanimous pick for the Eastern Conference to go to the NBA Finals. And they beat them. Oh, wait, no. I'm thinking about the Bucks. How am I getting the Bucks and the Hawks mixed up? I'm talking about the 76ers. They beat the 76ers. This was a team it was supposed to be the Sixers and the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Bucks were actually kind of looking from the outside of that trio right there. And the 76ers crumbled to the Hawks. The Nets crumbled to the Bucks. So it's really not even about who's on your squad anymore. It's about who has the momentum, who makes the key plays throughout the series that actually give you that little boost. And when you get that boost, because everything really at the end of the day, everything was all even between most of these teams and throughout their series. And it was going to come down to the fourth quarter. It was going to come down to the last shots. Who's going to run out of gas first? And, these teams that we wouldn't have expected, the Hawks, maybe the Suns. I mean, we've seen teams like the Suns before being a 2 seed, but really, are they a 2 seed? That's what people were probably thinking at the beginning of the playoffs when you look at all the teams that were in there. Nobody believed that the 2 seed was truly going to be the team that would take the path to get to the finals. People were putting their bets on the Lakers, even with the Lakers team that clearly was not a team that was ready to go anywhere. When you're talking about making it to the finals, that wasn't their time. They wasn't ready for that. They weren't ready for it. We could see it in their last 10 games of the regular season. They wasn't ready. They didn't want to do the play-in tournament because they knew they were limping around. But the Suns, the Suns maybe this is the pendulum swing. Maybe now it's the Suns. Maybe now it's Suns in Utah Western Conference when everybody else chasing. We don't know. But right now, the Suns got the momentum. And when you look at, and look, it's never one team doing everything right. It's one team doing everything right when it needs to be done right, and the other team not executing when they need to execute. Now, why do I say that? Well, of course, I say that because of playoff P, Paul George. Now, for those of you who didn't get a gander at it, this is called snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Missed it. And they call timeout.
Hold up.
Crowder looking, throws it alley-oop.
Hold on, let's run through it one more time. So these are the free throws that Paul. These are free throws. Let's first establish, for those who maybe don't have a full understanding of the rules of the round ball, this is called a free throw. This is as a result of too many team fouls, the opportunity that a player will get to shoot the ball uncontested from like 10 feet away, 12 feet away, at a free throw line. Nobody can contest it. You are allowed 2 shots. These are like gimmies. These are supposed to be the easiest part of your all-around game as a player, is hitting free throws. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the case for everybody. Nobody is a 100% free throw shooter. But there are those who are very good. While being very good, it still is a factor that needs to be considered, that once you get into clutch moments like this, where you have 8 seconds left and you're up by 1, the mathematical path for your team to be in the best position possible is that you hit these 2 free throws and you give yourself a 3-point lead, which means that they can only tie the game unless they miraculously get a foul and hit the 3-point shot and they get the and one for a 4-point play. That's as rare as it would probably come for any experienced playoff vet. The Los Angeles Clippers are 89% free throw shooting team. They set the record for the best free throw shooting team in the NBA, in NBA history, I believe, this year in the NBA. They take a lot of free throws. They make a lot of free throws. I believe at this point, Paul George is 5 for 8 from free throws, from the free throw line of this game, I believe. He ended up being 5 for 10, which is 50%. If he makes these 2 free throws, at the very worst case scenario, they're going to overtime. More likely, they win the game. Short on the first one. All right, well, you fucked that up. At least let's make it 1 possession. They can't. Oh, no, fuck it. I suck. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let them alley-oop the ball to win the game, because there could be no other way that a team chooses to completely melt down in the moment that matters. Really, I mean, look, the alley-oop I can live with, because teams do that, and sometimes if a team has it schemed out right, it's a very hard thing to defend. It all boils down to who's passing it and who's catching it. If you know, they're going to have to be on point. They have to be on point. The pressure's on them to make that. That's not going to be so easy. But the free throws, when you miss 2 free throws and you are the self-appointed, anointed playoff P. When Damian Lillard missed 2 free throws in the bubble last year, in the playoffs, that cost them the game, against the Clippers no less, Paul George walked over, smacked his mouth a little bit, sent him home, talking shit on his way out. He said he was going to be on motherfuckers' asses this year for how they were talking about his struggles in the playoffs. He said, playoff P, you ain't met playoff P? Oh, shit, you about to meet playoff P, bro. And here we are at the moment of playoff P's absolute, undisputed judgment, undisputed presence on the court. This is what playoff P is all about. When you say playoff P, this is what it's supposed to mean. At the free throw line, icing the game, late, coming through clutch, 26 points. It's time for playoff P, y'all. It's time for playoff P. Oh, they cheering. Because playoff P is in the building. So I can't even get mad. I can't even get mad at the Clippers. Shit, Kawhi gone. I mean, y'all ain't that deep when you look at, the rest of y'all's roster. I mean, you got Beverly over there, but I mean, if you touch Beverly, he go flying through the dang rafters. But playoff P is supposed to carry it. Self-anointed, self-appointed playoff P. That was on him. All on him. So he better have 50 in the next game because he going to need it. Because they're going to be gunning for 3-0. And they haven't done that well at home. They lost an entire series of home games against the Mavericks. They blew it. All you got to do is steal one game away to give yourself the advantage. And they blew it. They blew it. See, we got some Suns fans in here. Pop culture archivist. Okay, I see you. Going crazy last night. Yeah. Phoenix got both their home court games. They won both of them. They ahead of the curve. They just game 3 is huge. Game 3 decides the series more often than not. Game 3 decides the series more often than not. So them boys got to come correct. Because then you give yourself at least, you give yourself 3 chances to get a game 4. But, I mean, hell, even at that, you don't even want to play with that. We done seen teams come back from 3-1 multiple times. Multiple times. Multiple times. Yeah, game 3 is the biggest game in every best of 7 series. That's like the pivotal game. That's the shot in the arm for whoever wins it. Because now, up 2-0, you're at the point of almost a calm arrogance, a calm confidence that can't be fucked with. If you win game 3, you're sitting in it. Now they got to do something extraordinary. To get back into the series. Which can happen, but it's not likely. Handful of times it's happened. But also, let me see here. Oh man, the reactions. Paul George reclaiming the Pandemic P title after missing those free throws. Taking his chain. He's taking his chain back. Oh, man.
That guy. Okay? You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
Oh, you're not that guy. Oh. I mean, that's what people are going to say now, right? And who better to really, I mean, I look, he has some bogus takes on things sometimes. I will not lie, but I tell you what, Shannon Sharp, a lot of times he be on the money. Now, when he gets outside of football, he can be iffy on some things. But I mean, in team sports, there are certain things that ring true no matter what. There are certain things that are just pillars of the entire team sports concept that just never, will never disappear, regardless of whatever sport it is. If it's a team sport, these are principles that apply to it. I think he does a good job of talking to those principles, and I think he does a good job giving analogies that you can relate to and you can understand, because it makes sense. Because I mean, that's what there's so many different traits that are expected of certain players who have certain roles on teams. When they show that they have those traits, those are things that you want to hone and build on. So let's listen to what he has to say here about playoff P. He says, Paul George's knees were knocking so hard at the free throw line, I thought someone was knocking at my door. All right, let's
I
go.
thought Doc Rivers said they wasn't going to trade Ben Simmons. Was that Ben Simmons last night shooting the free throws? Oh, that was Paul Simmons. Or was that Ben George? Oh, my goodness, Skip. I thought somebody was knocking on my door. I was like, I said, what's that? Who's knocking on the door? That was Paul George Meade. I thought somebody was knocking on my door up in Bel Air. Yeah. I said, what is that doing? You saw it, too. I knew it. I knew it. Skip, can I share something with you? Yeah. He's not that guy.
He's not that guy.
That's not you, bud.
That's it right there. Look, again, all the stuff that he was talking about, Paul George was talking, and look, I mean, I don't got nothing. You can talk. You can talk as much as you want about what you're going to do out there on the court. You can. You can talk it. You can talk about it. You can let people know. You can proclaim your greatness in any way you feel you would like to do so. But there's one caveat. When you open your mouth and talk about what you're going to do, what kind of things you are going to accomplish, how good you are, one thing you got to do, there's one caveat. You better back that shit up. When it comes time, you better have all of mama's cooking. You better have it all ready. Better be nice and hot, and you better go out there and you better perform. You better exhibit exactly what you said that you will exhibit. Because if you don't, and now you can get away with it if you're performing, but you don't come through in a moment, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not a make or break. You can come out of it alive. Somebody's gonna say something, but it's likely not gonna catch so hot and so on fire that you're gonna, the doubts about your career will begin to swirl. But when you are on the biggest stage of your sport, in the biggest moment of the game, in the biggest moment of your career, after everything you said, after everything you proclaimed from the mountaintop, after all the shouting, after all the interviews, after all the hand gestures, after all the flexing, when it is time for the rubber to meet the road, and when it's time to pay the piper, you better come through on what you said you're going to do. You better come through. If you don't come through, they will destroy you. And that's what's happening to him right now. Right now, he's in phase one of being completely demolished in terms of his credibility and talking about what he's going to do. He saved himself in the last series. They lost Kawhi. He came back the next game. He put up big numbers. People backed off. Hey, playoff P is here. But once you missed them 2 free throws, in the moment where you could have pointed directly to this moment in the chronological timeline of your career, you could have pointed to this moment and said, look, motherfuckers, I did it. I came through. I did it for my squad. In that moment, that you should have been celebrating yourself. Whoo! They coming to crush your kingdom, because now it ain't playoff P no more. It's pandemic P. That's what they calling you, bro. Pandemic P. Just trying to make his way through without getting caught up with the virus. Pandemic P. Man. And this is what they're going to do to you. This is what they're going to do to you. They're going to laugh. They're going to laugh, bro. That's part of it. Now, look. Somebody will say, whoa, what about Kwame and, blah, blah, blah. Kwame's situation was different than this. Kwame ain't been the one coming out talking about what he's going to do. Talking about what shots he was going to make. What championships he was going to win. He wasn't self-anointing or self-appointing himself. He was out there playing basketball. Somebody decided they wanted to talk about him relentlessly for decades. That's different. That's different. This, hey, you tell them that you're the king. When they come through, you better show them or they're going to destroy your empire. He had his chance. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Now, moving on, had a little something that I wanted to bring up to you guys because I actually responded to this on Twitter. Pro Football Focus put a tweet up. This was last week, I believe, or this was on the 18th. So, yeah, last week. These guys put this up here, and I wanted to bring it to you and see what you guys think. Because it was actually, it was something that it was talked about. It was talked about. It was trending on Twitter. It says, what is the best running back duo of the 21st century? And, I came across this. And, in my mind, I'm biased. I already knew who I was picking. But I think some folks may have different opinions, which I'd love to hear and love to talk about. So it says here, what is the best running back duo of the 21st century? You have Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew, LaDainian Tomlinson and Darren Sproles, Warwick Dunn and T.J. Duckett. That's a weird one. Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Reggie Bush and Deuce McAllister. So for me, and I remember all of these duos. I was watching, I'm pretty sure I was watching Warwick Dunn and T.J. Duckett, but I was playing when, maybe I was watching LaDainian and Darren Sproles. I'm not sure. Can't remember what years they were together. But, I was watching and playing during some of these duos. And, for me, I think this is an easy one to look at and feel confident in saying Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew. That was a combination of running back that was, it was an unbelievable combination. Unbelievable combination. I blocked for both of those guys, and both when they were both together, and when it was just Mojo. But no disrespect, I just feel like that was a far more consistently exceptional group of running backs than you would see with these other ones. LT, of course, nobody's going to take LT's greatness away from him, but Darren Sproles was not like a home run hitting running back at the same time. He was more of a special teams punt returner, kickoff returner, who came in on 3rd and longs to catch the ball out of the backfield. He wasn't a first or second down running back. And Mojo and Fred were both sharing first and second downs. I think they were swapping series when Fred was there, because Freddie T in his last couple years, because I was with him my first 2 years in the league. That dude actually he breathed new life into himself in those 2 seasons. Dude was just running all over. And he ran, he got over 10,000 yards rushing. That's a crazy thing. Jacksonville's, that running back duo both have over 10,000 yards rushing. They both have over 10,000 yards rushing. And like someone said down here, they made me aware, if you look at the production, Mojo and Freddie T combined for 2,200 yards in Maurice's rookie season. So they both had 1,000 yards. Whether it was combined or just on the ground, I'm not sure. I'm not certain. But Darren Sproles had almost 1,000 yards rushing, or almost 1,000 yards combined in his 4 years in San Diego. So that's kind of what I would have expected as far as rushing, because Darren Sproles didn't run the ball that much in when he was in San Diego with the then San Diego Chargers. He wasn't getting the ball, he wasn't getting the ball 300 times a season, like rushing, not even. So that was like, it was a good combination for what they both brought to the table. I mean, LT was the running back. He was a scat back / third down pass catching back. He was not a running back in the purest sense. Warrick Dunn, TJ Duckett, I think that was trying to replicate the Warrick Dunn Mike Allstott combination that you had, which I actually would have much rather had that combination here than Warrick Dunn and TJ Duckett, because TJ Duckett fizzled out like, nobody's business. So I wouldn't even have this combination here. I would have Warrick Dunn and Mike Allstott. That was a hell of a combination. That's a combination that I would say could compete with this combination, but I guess that would have been what? Bucks won. Well, the Bucks, I think Warrick Dunn left Tampa right after or right when Tony Dungy left, I think. So that would explain why that combination probably split up before the turn of the century, because this is the 21st century. But that, if we're just talking all time, I think that duo, Mike Allstott, Warrick Dunn, is much better than this one. Much better than this one. Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, that was another good combination of running backs. D'Angelo Williams was the home run hitter. Jonathan Stewart was your more methodical 4 or 5 yards per carry, fall forward running back. Wouldn't call him a home run hitter. He could get in from inside the red zone. He could get in from inside the 30, but I wouldn't call him a 50 or 60 or 70-yard hitter like D'Angelo Williams was. D'Angelo Williams was a beast with that. But it was, they complemented each other. So that one's a good one. I would put this one I'd put that one in second out of these. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They're good. They're good. It's a good combination. I think they need some more. I think they need a little bit more in terms of body of work to really be able to judge them. But I think that they got a chance to be up there at the top. I think they got a chance if they have long careers. But we already saw last year. Who was it? I think it was it Chubb that kept getting hurt last year? Not sure. I don't remember exactly who it was. But if it was one or the other. But I know that they had injury issues last year, which, hey, that can derail those kind of tandems. Reggie Bush, Deuce McAllister, I think Reggie Bush was a big disappointment as a running back, to be honest. I think he was a big disappointment. I didn't think that he was really utilized in a smart way. This guy is, a guy you want running on the edges. He's a guy you want running either off the tackle or, at the sideline. You don't want to. He would have been great for a zone scheme. He was not in a zone scheme with New Orleans. He was in a man blocking downhill running scheme that fit Deuce McAllister better than it fit him. Deuce McAllister was good at that, and Deuce McAllister had some wheels on him too. He could get loose. But that one would be at the bottom to me. That would be at the bottom. So for me, I would go Fred Taylor and Mojo at 1. I would actually go Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams at 2, LT and Darren Sproles at 3, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb at 4, Warrick Dunn, TJ Duckett at 5, Reggie Bush, Deuce McAllister at 6. That would be how I'd rank them. That would be how I would rank them. Like I said, they need a bigger body of work to really be able to give them, the benefit of the doubt there. I'm still going to put them above these two, mainly because this wasn't even this was maybe a few years before TJ Duckett. I mean, TJ Duckett was a fumbling machine too. I mean, he fumbled the ball all the time. Warrick Dunn was still in his prime playing in Atlanta, but it was more just him with him as a relief hitter than, Warrick Dunn and him actually working in tandem in different scenarios. But I would definitely put them above, these two guys. Deuce McAllister and Reggie Bush, it was just a flip scenario there. I think Reggie Bush just was not, they tried to feature him because of all the hype around him. They tried to, but he just wasn't that guy. He just wasn't that guy. Like Shannon Sharp said, he just wasn't that guy. So they couldn't use him. But yeah, I think that I look at these guys. I mean, these guys both their rushing yardage alone, they both went over 10,000. Maurice Jones-Drew has tons of yardage as somebody coming out of the backfield and receiving the ball. I mean, Freddie T too. Freddie T has some history. He's not a great pass catcher, but he can catch. He's done work outside of that. These guys, I mean, this was a team. These were backs that were known to be good runners, both of them, straight up and down as individual running backs. So, it's kind of like when you had Marion Barber and what's his name, in the University of Minnesota, Lawrence Moroney and Marion Barber. You had two running backs on the same team who were both starting running backs, who both had over 1,200 yards rushing that season, their senior season, I believe it was. So the last year they were in Minnesota. Those guys ran the ball like freaks. But even them, I mean, damn, what happened to them in the league? I know Moroney went to New England. Barber went to Dallas. Marion Barber had a decent enough career as a running back. I mean, he had some vintage runs too. He had some vintage runs too. But were they only good because you were blocking for them? No. These guys are both potentially Hall of Fame level players. I mean, Fred Taylor, you could argue, should be in the Hall of Fame at this point. Maurice Jones-Drew was already nominated for a NFL 100th anniversary special induction into the Hall of Fame. Maurice Jones-Drew was nominated. I mean, he didn't get in, I don't believe, but he was nominated as a player who could be brought inducted into the Hall of Fame. So yeah, these guys were real deal. This is not just because I blocked for him. They were real deal. Look at their numbers. Maurice Jones-Drew won the rushing title in 2011. 1,600, almost 1,700 yards rushing. 3-time Pro Bowler. 3 times in a row Pro Bowler. First team All-Pro. Fred Taylor has a Pro Bowl under his belt. I mean, these dudes balled. Come on now. These dudes balled. There wasn't no sugar in there. Wasn't sweet. Them boys was coming downhill. And like I said, there's another, Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, that's comparable to me. That's really a comparable group. Those guys were runners too. They were runners too. They had a great combo. Shit. My old teammate Tutan Reyes blocked for them. But you're trying to get me to take the credit, huh? I mean, when Mojo won the rushing title, I will say this, on runs to the right side of the offensive line, which would have been my side, he averaged 14.7 yards a carry. So, do with that what you will. And I won all AFC South multiple years in a row when I was playing there. So shit, hey, ESPN had me down as the best guard in the division. Shit. anyways, that is going to be it for this Lineman Life Live. Just wanted to kind of cool things down with this last part here, talking about these running back tandems, because it was an interesting thing that I really I paid attention to it as the days went by to see what people were saying, and there were a lot of people on here who actually agreed with my assessment, who actually did look at it and say, you know what, yeah, I think that is the best combination. And I mean, there are people here who put down their own list, and Maurice and Fred are at the top. So shoot, you know. And hey, there were people who were left off this too. I mean, Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs, that was a good combination too. Ahmad Bradshaw is the homie, so shout out to Ahmad. I know he's out there somewhere. That's the homie. I kicked it with him a few times. We trained together, getting ready for the draft, or getting ready for the combine. Me and him trained together. So yeah, so that's gonna be that, guys. I do appreciate y'all very much for being in on the live stream. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the Observant Lineman, Uche Nwaneri. I appreciate you guys very much, and we will be back on probably Friday. I'm thinking going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we'll see. If the Tuesdays and Thursdays have been kind of in between days, not a lot of news, not a lot of stuff to really dig up. So if something breaks, then yes, I'll be on it tomorrow. But if it doesn't, look forward to talking and seeing me again on the live stream on Friday. But I'll also be dropping videos in between then, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you are notified each and every time that I drop a new video. But again, appreciate you guys very much for checking out the live stream, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.